Welcome to Notes from the North with Kyle and Sam.
Welcome back to Notes from the North. Kyle and Sam here. And Kyle, we had lots of questions, I think, about what this Vikings team would do. It was a little bit of scoreboard watching earlier in the day, seeing how the Rams did, how Seattle did, how that NFC South division did, and certainly some mixed results. But at the end of the day, the Vikings came into last night with control of their own destiny. And then that happened. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, scale of 1 to 10, I just how how discouraging is that result given kind of what was at stake?
Yeah, I think probably like an 8 or a 9. And maybe the reason why it's less discouraging, well, I mean, a couple reasons at least. One is you can explain away at least some of it because of the injuries. And I know the Packers had their own injuries, but they're still starting with their top quarterback, and they're not cycling through four in the same season. So that alone kind of puts Green Bay at an advantage. So that explains a lot of it. And that is a legitimate excuse to a certain extent. And partner that with the fact that the Vikings haven't really been playing well. You know what I mean? Like they beat the Raiders coming out of the bye 3-0, like a hockey game. And since then they've just lost, right? They lost the two going into the bye. They've lost every other game since the bye, apart from the Raiders, right? So expectations really shouldn't have been sky high, right? They should have been fairly modest. And so maybe that puts it at an 8 or 9. But as you mentioned, Seahawks lost. And so with that loss, the Steelers won, Pittsburgh did their part. Mike Tomlin used to be a Vikings employee, was a Vikings coach before he was a Pittsburgh coach. Did Minnesota solid? Tomlin, amazing, right? So the Vikings once again have full control over their playoff destiny. Seahawks lose, all the Vikings need to do is win 2 games. You win 2 games, you're in, guaranteed. Nobody can change that. They end up losing. So they've since given that away, and so in that sense, it is, I think, very discouraging for Vikings fans.
Yeah, it is, and like I don't know, it does just feel well, very Vikings-esque. Uh,
Totally.
and and I guess maybe I'll jump ahead a little bit and then we'll jump back to the game. But what would you say is the most Vikings way for Week 18 to go? Because again, they still have a chance
Yeah.
to make the
Yeah.
playoffs. Is it that you know what, everything works in their favor, that they could win and get
Yeah.
in, and they bungle it?
Yeah, that's
Like
right. On like a missed kick at the end, maybe, or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
like because again, I think depending on where you look, odds are probably somewhere between. I know on the broadcast last night, I think they said 3%. I'm
Yeah.
sure this
That
probably
seems about right. Yeah.
right,
Low single digits. Yeah.
which is not nothing, but it's also basically nothing.
Yeah. It's not good. It's certainly
It's
not where you want to be going into week 18. I mean, it's good if you're playing the lottery. It's very bad if you're trying to be a playoff team in the NFL, right?
yeah,
So, especially when you consider how high that percentage was a month and a half ago, right? Or something along those lines.
yeah,
So, within that context, it's quite poor. The most Vikings way to, oh, man, I don't know if it's a heartbreak. I mean, at this point, if you say, oh, friggin' classic Vikings, would be if they just completely no show again. The defense just once again craps the bed, just complete no show, disaster, right? And then there's this uncertainty at QB where the head coach, who used to be an NFL quarterback, seemingly doesn't have a handle on the quarterback situation for his team. And I get it. I get it. Kirk Cousins is kind of the antidote to this, but that antidote's not coming back, not for this season at least. So it's that maybe is the best or the most classic kind of Vikings way for this to end is some sort of disastrous no show, whether it's some flip flop on a QB and maybe even a chance. Somehow there's a glimmer of hope. You have the flip flop at QB, things go poorly. Somehow it's still close. One score games, that's what Vikings do, right? And then uh some sort of mess with a field goal. That would be
yeah.
classic Vikings.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it. There's a couple of different factors there, and I think like
Yeah.
I'm curious for you how you would diagnose last night because again, I like it. It felt I don't know. I felt started off great even with you got Kirk Cousins up there uh leading the
That's right.
chant.
Yeah. That's
Like
fantastic.
it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
man, okay, let's build off of some of that
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
And then felt like again, you had those first couple drives for each team where not a whole lot's happening, and then it just felt like it was all Packers from there. And so I guess
Yeah.
I'm curious, like you you get brought in, you're supposed to diagnose the situation, and you mentioned quarterback play uh ever since uh well, I don't know. It's been several weeks where you said like it doesn't even feel like like I'm trying to think about how many games a quarterback has had the full game at this point, right? Since
Yeah.
the like there's been flip-flopping back and forth. So you talk about the quarterback play, you talk about the defense, a defense that again moved into this, you said like from some metrics, a top 10 defense to just
Yeah, man.
really poor as of late. Um,
Stunningly poor.
like
Like stunning.
right. And so like I think there's some obvious things, even like last night, felt like the offensive line
Yeah.
was really struggling as well. Like
Yeah.
and you mentioned the coaching too. Like I think there's some real face value, like some things you can see very upfront that went wrong with this team. But like I don't know, is it just that, or is there something else? Or because like again, this is even you talk about the injuries to the Vikings have, but like it felt like the Vikings were in a spot with the top two corners for the Packers being out, or two of the top two corners for sure.
Yeah.
Jair Alexander uh is there. Like I was like,
Yeah.
maybe Jefferson, if you can get Jefferson the ball, like could this be a 200-yard game?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let this
Like,
dude feast. Yeah.
is there an alternative diagnosis here, or is it just, you know what, this is who the Vikings are, and uh, that's what we have to live with.
The Vikings weren't as bad as they showed last night. Part of the reason why they were so bad is because of the injuries. And again, I know it's such a stupid excuse. Everyone has injuries. The Packers have a lot of injuries, right? That's at least part of the equation. Okay. Kevin O'Connell spoke after the game, began with blame for himself as the head coach. That makes sense. And kind of just, I think from there, it just kind of permeates the entire team. Najee Thompson was sensational. He was a sensational player last night, but you couldn't find too many guys who you say that guy did his job basically perfectly. Najee Thompson did his job perfectly. Um, but there aren't too many, and you like move through the coaching into the players themselves. Stunningly poor effort. That was a Donatellian defense, right? Guys just running free in the secondary, just as completely uninspired. And he kind of like I'm watching there and saying like, is it Caleb Evans? Like, is his confidence just like totally scorched? Right? Like he got pulled last week. Ryan Flores was asked about Evans specifically leading up to the game, who he'd be fine. Evans Flores says, yeah, he'll be fine, he'll be good. And then the Packers just repeatedly picked on, right? And successfully, right? And this is your CB2. Without Byron Murphy, he's now your CB1. He's your top corner, right? Long and strong. Generally, he's a pretty good tackler, physical, right? A lot of hope for the future with the Caleb Evans with the Vikings. You're looking at ideally a long-term CB2. He's probably not going to become, a top shelf corner like Jair Alexander maybe, but you're thinking maybe he's a big part of that where he's that second corner, and he just got roasted last night. But everybody got roasted, and the Vikings were forced into some strange personnel where they were like, they'd have Jordan Hicks and Ivan Pace in the field at the same time, alongside 3D tackles, a couple of edge rushers, and like the only corner on the field would be Evans, and then the safeties, right? And Cameron Bynum, who flexed out wide, who, in fairness, he was a college corner, but he's been an NFL safety, right? So you get this sense of the defense was a little disjointed, and we're kind of massaging the personnel. We're trying to kind of make it work. But like even within that heavier look where you got a lot of safeties, a lot of the big boys up front, you're still getting scorched on the ground. Like Aaron Jones is still having a field day. right? And so that's where it felt very Donatellian, in that they really had no capacity to stop what the Packers were doing, which is unfortunate because it just made for such a painful viewing experience. And sometimes the way that things were being played, how soft the coverage was, how much respect at times they were giving to the Packers receivers, just felt absurd. Absurd. So it was that I think was very, very, very discouraging, I think, to watch.
Yeah, it was. And I guess one of the things that I think of is, again, we know that the playoff odds are not, it's not zero, but it's low. And so there is a little bit of a building to next year and
Yeah.
figuring out how are you going to get better for next year? What are you building off of? And I think up until a couple of weeks ago, even though their record had been great, there was some nice pieces on defense where it felt like, you know what, things have been good. There is something to
Yeah.
build off of.
Yeah.
And I think the discouraging thing, I think, is especially because of how sports work and the recency bias. Uh, I think there was some questions you felt like, you know what, well, maybe there are some pieces here to build off, especially at that corner position, which just continues to be a question where
Yeah.
there's just, it's not that it's bad, it's just inconsistent. And you're just not exactly sure what you're going to get. And now, yeah, again, you mentioned Evans, certainly not a great last few weeks in terms of performance. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I guess like I don't know how much more there is to talk about last night. Like there was a lot of bad. Uh, it was a
Yeah,
really
that's right.
discouraging no show.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
we could talk
A
about
lot
the
of bad.
we could talk about the quarterback position at the end of the day. Just all like really Mullins, Hall, and Dobbs have all shown flashes of good quarterback play, and they have all shown that they are not starters in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that you need a Kirk Cousins. Let me ask you this question: like,
Sure.
who do you roll out week 18? Like, do you like
Friggin'
and like
Mullins.
what?
Mullins, my gosh. That's what they should have
So
been this week. Friggin' Nick Mullins. That's the answer.
let me
Sorry.
throw out
Yeah.
this. You throw out Dobbs just saying, you know what, thanks for the memories. Thank you for a great time. I do think it is Mullins, and I think you see what happened last night, and I don't know. Like, could the game have been different if Mullins was in?
At least the offense moves.
At least the question is there.
I'm not saying he's perfect, but gosh darn it, we talked about this. Justin Jefferson's a Ferrari, right? Have somebody who can put fuel in the tank, right? Squandering Justin Jefferson, that should be like the unforgivable sin. Even beyond throwing interceptions or fumbling the ball, not giving your elite playmakers, with Jefferson being the elite playmaker, maybe in the NFL at large, not having a quarterback who can give those dudes a shot is like that's it, right? And especially as you look ahead to 2024, okay, you get an offense first head coach. Kevin O'Connell's not being fired. So if you're a Vikings fan, you're thinking that's a stupid thought. That's not happening. Okay, so Kevin O'Connell's coming back. You've got Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson. When healthy, that could quite possibly be the best trio of pass catchers in the NFL, right? When healthy. Okay. If those three were healthy the whole full year, they're probably all clearing 1,000 yards, which would have been a first in franchise history, right? And then you get your two tackles and so on and so forth. There's a lot of great pieces here in this offense. Which quarterback is going to be able to make it go? If that's Kirk Cousins, if it's a high quarterback in the draft, you cannot squander prime years of Justin Jefferson, prime years of TJ Hawkinson, and Addison, who's already very, very good. You can't waste away 1, 2, 3, however many years of these guys being at this level. So the answer in the short term is Nick Mullins, because Nick Mullins, he's a veteran. He started plenty, and he'll just freaking go for it. You know, he'll throw the oh no pass that turns into, oh yes, that was fantastic, and he'll throw the oh no pass of holy crap, that was horrendous. But at least he'll throw the pass and give his dudes a shot. That Nick Mullins is the answer. It's crazy in a sense that Jaron Hall was the pick going into. I thought Mullins was going to be the choice going into week 17. And it just would have been a much cleaner operation if you announce Mullins. And if Mullins totally flops, then it's just a single change to Jaron Hall. So be it. So be it. Right. But then going Hall first and then having to yank Hall and then put Mullins back in. And you're talking about the point with Hall is to develop this kid into a long-term backup. That's what the Vikings basically said when they drafted him in the 5th round. We want a long-term backup. And, one bad half and getting pulled isn't going to necessarily undermine. Okay. But man, it's not a good look. And that can't be good for the confidence. And so friggin' Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins is the answer in week 18. I can't imagine they arrive at any other conclusion. Yeah, that's my rant. The answer is Mullins, for goodness sake.
I think it is, and I think like what I would say is, again, playoffs, long shot.
Oh yeah,
but you do need to make sure that, like, and we talked about this actually really early on in the season. You talk about getting Jefferson the ball. Like, you really want this dude not going into the offseason completely dejected and completely frustrated. And again, Jefferson's come out and he's talked a lot about, well, not a lot, but he has mentioned Kirk Cousins even after last week's performance, just saying, you know what, need this guy. And I don't know. I think we will have more conversations about the quarterback situation in the offseason. There certainly is that.
It's coming. It's coming.
But
yeah,
if it's not Cousins, you really need to get this right.
have to nail it. Have to.
There is like very little room for very little margin for error here. Like, if it's not Cousins, you need to make sure that it is an absolute perfect. Not no one's perfect, but a good decision, that because the last thing you need is Jefferson to be frustrated and to want out.
He's 24, hasn't yet signed his mega extension.
Yeah.
Keep this dude happy. Like, just and not just keep him happy, but like win football games, let him produce. That is as important as it gets if you're the Vikings organization.
Well, let's do this, because again, it does feel a little bit like we're almost moving to off-season mode while also realizing we're not quite there yet.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So I do think it's probably worth noting that yesterday ends up being the last Vikings home game of the season. And there is definitely some notable free agents. Again, you mentioned Jefferson's contract situation. Certainly you kind of wonder what hopefully an extension looks like. But again, there's some key Vikings players that have been around for a while that I don't know. Have they played their last Vikings game? Oh, Vikings home game, really, I should say.
Yeah. Okay. So quick note on Jefferson. He's still under contract, so don't misunderstand what Sam's saying. I don't think that's what Sam's trying to say. No. But you just note he's got his 5th-year option. He's got one more year, and we're largely looking to avoid discontent, and that dragging into the offseason. I think that's what Sam's trying to say. Actual free agents, there are plenty, right? Including Kirk Cousins, Danielle Hunter, Marcus Davenport find himself in there. Harrison Smith isn't a free agent, but his cap hit is such that there's no way he's coming back unless there's an adjustment to his deal, right? I think he's making about 19.2, or going to account for 19.2 next year on the cap. And at 35 years old, soon to be, and you already have Bynum and Metellus playing pretty well for pretty cheap, there's just zero chance that Harrison Smith comes back to that cap figure. And so, what does that mean? What do they do with Jordan Hicks, right? What do they do with Blake Brendel or David Quisenberry? What do they do with Johnny Muntz, KJ Osborne, Brandon Powell, right? These are all players who are going to be unrestricted free agents. And the Vikings have to make their decision. When Kwesi was first hired end of January 2022. And really since then, you kind of see the decisions kind of setting up the 2024 offseason as this like major reset transition. And we're kind of, kind of here we are. Like, it's officially 2024. Sam and I were recording the morning of 2024, and the off season, as Sam just mentioned, is like kind of almost here. Not quite, but we kind of see the writing on the wall. The Vikings are going for it this year, even if they get into the playoffs. Oh boy, it's going to be an interesting first round if they do. Point being, offseason's almost here. Huge decisions, right? And then also within that, a lot of cap space, far more than Vikings fans are going to be accustomed to seeing. A lot of draft picks. They got 9 draft picks right now. Very possible they add more. And so it's just going to be fascinating to see. It's possible that was Harrison Smith's last home game, for instance, right? It's possible that was Danielle Hunter's last home game, and kind of down the line, right? And then you have Harrison Phillips. Is he going to come back for nearly $9 million? You know what I mean? Like, you have players like that, say, who it's you look at the budget and think, okay, what's the GM thinking in this instance? This was a rebuild year for the defense, and even with the recent awful performances, they've still far exceeded expectations, no doubt about it. But there are clear talent deficiencies. Who gets let go? Who gets brought in? These are kind of some of the questions. 1 game left in the season. That's all that's guaranteed.
We will see.
Yeah. So, sometimes I don't know how Sam's supposed to react, because I'll go on like a 4-minute monologue with like 7 different points, and then Sam will just have to go in there and pick up the wreckage of some sort of incoherent thought.
No, it is. I think it is worth noting. Like you mentioned, definitely some unique situations, and you look at like Danielle Hunter hasn't had a phenomenal season. Harrison Smith has been just a backbone on this defense for so many years.
It's amazing.
Again, Kirk Cousins, fascinating situation, and it is, again, when you look at football, it always stands out to me just how ruthless almost you kind of need to be in these situations. Like,
oh yeah,
you have these guys, and cutting a player doesn't mean that they're not good anymore. It just means that at the cap number that they're at was where the team is at. It just doesn't make sense. And so it always is just a fascinating experience to see. It's not to say that you're not good anymore. It's not to say that we don't want you anymore. It's just there is such a numbers game in terms of the financial situation.
Exactly.
And I think we talked about just like, what do you do in terms of, again, you can make cap hits low and add void years and do that.
Exactly.
But you got to make sure the player is worth doing that for, because it's not without consequences. So we
that
will
could be a different podcast episode. Exactly. Yeah.
Anyways, maybe we can wrap it there, unless you have any final thoughts on Vikings or anything as you're looking ahead to the
final
lines.
Final thought that'll shoehorn in is just right now, if the season ended today, and up to recently it would have ended today, because we just recently expanded 17 games, the Vikings would be picking 12th in the draft. So keep that in the back of your minds. And there's a chance, small chance, but still a chance, they could finish with a top 10 pick if they were to lose and other teams won, and so on and so forth. So just keep that in mind right now as you kind of look ahead and dream about what kind of amazing talent could be coming to Minnesota, and calling 12th right now is where they find themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting question. Like, I think in some ways, again, I can't really bring myself to cheer for a loss, but there is some comfort that can be brought in a loss, knowing that theoretically it improves the draft stock. Again, what's the difference between those picks? It might not be much, but also depending on who's picking in front of you and the needs that they have, it could matter. So
it could, it definitely could.
We will see what happens. But thanks everyone for listening. Again, Kyle mentioned I probably could have started with this. Happy New Year to everyone. And thanks for listening. Be back next week. Hope everyone has a great week, and we'll be back next Monday. Thanks. Bye.